to the NFL once again in the conversation, man, making adjustments potentially to their preseason schedule. So from the NFL side, they are leaning heavily towards cutting the preseason down to just 2 preseason games. They want to cut the first game and the 4th game, only keeping it where every team will have 1 home, 1 away game. And they're saying they're trying to do that so that way, obviously they have to adjust because of the COVID situation, but so that the players will still have opportunities to get acclimated and ultimately get prepared. But reports are also coming out from the NFLPA side that some of the players don't want preseason at all. They want to get rid of all of it. So I think it's a unique dynamic, right? It's a very unique dynamic, man. I see the pros and cons to both. I look at it obviously as the former player. I think of my experiences. I've been able to have the luxury of not needing a preseason because I knew I was going into the year as a starter. Then I've seen it where, you're the new guy, whether you're a veteran or a rookie, and you got to still prove yourself and the significance of the preseason. So when I think of it, it's like, man, if you're a guy like Pouncey or even like, I don't want to say Ben this year because he's coming off an injury and I think he's going to need these preseason games, but you think of some of the guys that have already been established, some of the guys that have already, proven themselves. I'm with them in terms of, do you really need the preseason games, the added risk and all these other things, man? Because ultimately you're just going to expose yourself for more potential injury without, number one, the compensation, because you're not even getting 10% of what your contract is for.
What you're saying right now is even outside of the COVID stuff.
Yeah. So that's typically like always a thought process, even though, they obviously, preseason does have its pros because it does help you get into game shape. No matter how often or how hard you want to push yourself in training camp, practice is nothing like that first preseason game you're in, that drive, and you're like, bro, I'm about to die. Like my lungs are on fire right now. I think, man, so I understand that element of it, but like I said, I could definitely see why they want to get rid of it in this particular offseason. But now, like I said, if you do that, though, if you do get rid of it or even condition it down to 2, there are a lot of bubble guys, a lot of late round draft pick guys, a lot of veterans that signed on to ultimately prove themselves that are going to be put in a very non-advantageous situation for them, man, because they're not going to get those opportunities to put their best foot forward, because you evaluate practice different than how you evaluate the game. When you're talking about the practice element of it, man, just the controlled climate of that, knowing the calls that are going out there, making sure that, okay, offense and defense, they script the plays together from a coaching standpoint. So they're going to put you in the best situations. Whereas when you get in the game, it's live bullets for everyone. So some guys get a chance to emerge and show how productive they can be and ultimately earn them roster spots, ultimately earn them key roles on offense and defense. I think back to Mike Hilton. His first year here in Pittsburgh, he was turning up in the preseason. That ultimately helped him become the day one starter, beating out William Gay, my dog Ducey. But without a preseason, that never happens. So for me, man, just seeing that whole dynamic and them, debating in terms of if they want to just keep it at 2 or if they want to get rid of it altogether, I think, man, it's a very, very fluid situation and it has a lot of variables to it, man, and ripple effects off of it.
Now, could they potentially expand the training camp then a little bit, maybe an extra week? Or what if they expanded the rosters to like 10 spots where you could have like 10 extra reserve spots? So you're not losing maybe some of those bubble guys that you didn't get to see in preseason or extended training camp time. I think those are ideas. I don't know if anything was mentioned about that, but.
Well, I didn't see anything. And
do you think that's a good idea even?
Put it like this. I like the idea of expanding training camp. That was something that reports had. Nothing was official, but people were just throwing those ideas out like, hey, what if they came into training camp a week or 2 early? Now, granted, as we see here today, it's July 2nd. So,
well, I think they canceled the Hall of Fame game, though, for the Steelers and Cowboys. So training camp wasn't earlier.
You're right.
They were able to push it back to the 28th instead of the 20th.
I think in this situation, it's more likely that things are going to get pushed back further versus
like them, regular season in October, potentially.
Correct. Versus them just saying, hey, we're going to start training camp earlier. Because, like I said, it's July 2nd. Traditionally in Pittsburgh, we would report the training camp that was the July 23rd, 24th time frame. So if you're talking about bringing them in a week or 2 early, you're talking about essentially a week or 2 from today, then reporting. I don't really see that happening right now, personally. But then also when you talked about adding to the rosters, the reason I don't think they'll do that is because, number one, from a money standpoint, that will change a lot in terms of how the salary cap is affected and things like that, because obviously you're spending more money on more players, but you still got the salary cap set at what it's at. We talked about how in Pittsburgh, how we were right up against the cap once everybody got their deals done, extensions, etc. You talk about adding more players.
I wonder if you can make an adjustment for the cap, maybe where those 10 extra players that are reserved, they would just, I guess, be maybe even extra practice squad players throughout the season, where they're getting paid maybe $50,000 for the year. And I'm sure you wouldn't really deny that, just because you got the money and you got a roster spot if you're trying to prolong your NFL career. At least, but it's just different times. You know what I mean? Yeah,
but from a money standpoint, you would have to have the practice squad money still be the same at that like 6-figure mark. I would say so. I don't really see that happening per se. And then, like I said, also you got to think, so for our situation, it doesn't benefit the Steelers because of how tight they are against the cap, though. You talk about some of these other teams that have a lot more money. Think about the quality of players they can bring in. Now things might get a little bit more twisted just because of, hey, well, we don't have enough money to bring in an extra 10 people right now. We might only bring in 8 or 9, or we got to do some moving and things like that. Whereas this team, they're bringing in a whole nother set of guys that can really help our roster out, help us get more depth and things like that. So from a competitive standpoint, I don't see that happening personally. And then, like I said, from the money standpoint, because you just open up so many other things.
Unless they made it like a $2 million bank on the side, where every team has this $2 million you could use for reserve players, and that's it. But yeah, like you said, there could be some complications with that. I'm just trying to look out for the players, man. You know how I am.
I'm with you on that, because I mean, from the player standpoint, you would like it because now you're gonna. I mean, you think about it, you add 10 more guys. That's 10 more guys getting health insurance.
It could be 5. It could be 6. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever the number is, but that adds to them getting health insurance. Guys that typically, if they weren't on a roster, they wouldn't be getting those benefits. But like I said, then the money element of it. Now, if you're the owners, you're like, well, dang, we got to cover that as well. And everything is heightened right now because of COVID, and not only that player, but his dependents as well. So it's a lot of variables that go into. Man, you know, it's a business. We talked about it. The NFL is cutthroat, man. It's a business. It is what it is, man. And they're gonna make moves. I've seen guys that, okay, once you get vested in terms of playing, it's 3 years, 3 games. So once you make it to your 4th season or whatever, essentially, is when you tap into becoming fully vested in terms of health insurance, benefits, your retirement, your pensions, all these other financial things get unlocked for you, and the numbers just start to double, triple, quadruple depending on how long you play after that. Man, you know how many times I see them cut guys after that 3rd season because they're like, no, bro, if he's on this roster opening day in this 4th season, that means he qualifies for all that, and we're on the hook for that for the next 10, 20 years. They cut him. It's serious, bro. It happens a lot. So I don't see them saying that, hey, man, we're going to agree to put ourselves out there for extra 5 or 6 or however many guys you want to put out there for that, man, because from a business standpoint, they're not trying to do that.
You've seen too much, dude.
Way too much, bro.
I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is.
No, man, but honestly, I do think they need to have some type of preseason, just because I think selfishly in Pittsburgh, I want Ben to be successful. Him coming off of, just think about last year, like I said, recovering the injury and everything like that, then no OTAs, no mini camp. Who knows what the training camp situation is going to look like? Do you really want his first time being back to be live bullets game situation? It counts. And then say it takes him a couple games to get back to normal, which is realistic. Those could be 3 losses. Those could be 4 losses. That doesn't help our situation.
Prime time against the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to show up big time no matter what, preseason or no preseason.
Hey, man, we all are entitled to our opinion.
I know. I've seen those videos, and he's more motivated than ever. The bright lights, Monday Night Football, first game back, it's going to be big time.